What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
I'm Jason.
and you are listening to Liquid Kernedge. What's up, my friend?
Nothing much, man. What's going on with you?
Oh, it is the post Super Bowl hangover.
Yes.
We are the first week of how many weeks are in 6 months? 32.
Yeah, something
We are
like that.
32 weeks away from our next NFL football game, so there's a little withdrawal going on. I realize the XFL does start this weekend, but I have zero interest. So NFL starts in August, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. No, I'm basically now just in chill mode right now, so
Yeah, it's
not much to get excited about, and that's okay. I can
yeah,
start
it's
focusing on cleaning my front yard of weeds and all that fun stuff.
yeah, and I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, where after it seems like January takes forever because there's so much between Thanksgiving and Christmas for the activity wise, and just it's more of a relaxed, happy time. It seems like that January takes forever, and now with the Super Bowl over, a lot of people spend their weekends watching football, and it's based around that sport. And it being gone, you have a finite amount of time to kind of kill and figure out what it is you want to do with your weekends, and that's hard for some
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, no, and I was kind of the other side. I was like, oh, I'm going to be kind of glad that now my weekend isn't consumed with having to watch fantasy and football and have to watch football, and I'm kind of ready to start doing other projects. So maybe this will be a turning point for me too.
Yeah, see, and for me, for fantasy football, I'm usually done by either mid-November or I'm in the championship in December. Then I'm good to go. And the Cardinals are hardly ever in the playoffs, so I don't ever have to worry about January
There we
football.
go. There we go.
So it's easy for me. But we do want to congratulate the Kansas City Chiefs. They did manage to pull out yet another double-digit come-from-behind victory to secure Super Bowl 54. So congratulations to them. And for all the 49er fans out there, suck it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
See,
It's no secret.
You belong to a different group than I do. See, I belong to the group of you rep. If your team's not in it, then the division is represented. You have to root for the division, man.
Oh, I say fuck
Yeah,
that.
that's
They're
why.
your rivals, man.
That's why I'm highbrow.
You don't root for your rivals.
And you're lowbrow, buddy.
I'm not lowbrow.
You're lowbrow.
I'm a real fan. You're not a real fan.
Oh, I'm a fan of our division.
No, fuck that. You're a fan of the Rams. Well, if the Niners, Cardinals, or Seahawks, man, I'm no offense, man, but you should hate that.
No, never. Never.
I don't understand why people who can hate a team so vehemently during the regular season can align with them in the playoffs because their team's on it. It makes zero sense.
Maybe the difference is
if you don't like a team in the regular season, you don't like them in the playoffs.
I don't hate any team. Maybe that's the difference. Like we have certain friends that we know that you even mention a single team's name and he convulses with puke. And I don't have that kind of hatred in my life.
Yeah, all right, I'll give you that. And neither do I. But I would rather be slapped across the face with a dead rattlesnake 1,000 times than root for any team in our division that's not the Cardinals in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Yes.
And on that note, why don't you do our plug?
Yeah. In fairness, the EP did ask that I do mention the Kansas City win and the San Francisco loss. I do believe he stands with me on this. Blood is thicker than water in a lot of cases, this being one of them. But what do you think? Do you stand by your division rivals if they make the Super Bowl and your team doesn't? We want to know. Hit us up on Facebook and Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge. If you want to post us and tag us on Instagram, go right ahead, also at Liquid Kernedge. If you want to talk to Tom about his thoughts on the Super Bowl, hit him up on Twitter and Instagram, all at Liquid_EP.
Well, it has now hit a topic that, how about this? I think we should start by saying this wasn't even going to be the topic of tonight's podcast. So that we lost 4 or 5 minutes just to the topic is great. And maybe we'll carry it at some other time because I think it's important. But something that kind of struck me recently is they did a poll question somewhere. I don't know if people are familiar with Phoenix, but we have a lot of people that decide that they want to try to hike mountains and they want to try to hike some of the peaks here in Phoenix. But what happens is a lot of time they can go up fine, but as they're trying to come down, they get heat exhaustion or they hurt themselves and they have to have rescue come in, fly up to the mountain to get them off of the mountain. Well, someone has posed the question of should the firework and public works departments of the city of Phoenix be on the hook financially for those costs when that happens to someone.
So should the Phoenix Fire Department and Phoenix PD, emergency services, be that as it may, be on the hook for all of that?
Yeah, and the poll question was asked, and it was surprising to me how many people thought that no, they shouldn't be on the hook to cover the costs of rescuing some dummy who goes up the mountain and doesn't prepare themselves.
Well, then I think we have another argument brewing, because I do think they should be off the hook for that, but if they have to rescue someone from their own stupidity.
Okay, so and that was the question that I wanted to pose to you tonight is what role in a rescue like that should be on the person who had to get rescued versus the person, or the fire, I guess Phoenix or whoever,
the taxpayers. I believe wholeheartedly that excuse me, I got a frog in my throat tonight. I believe wholeheartedly that if you get into an accident and the fire department and police department are summoned, you shouldn't have to pay for that, because accidents happen. That's what they're there for. But if you go out on a hike to, we'll say, Camelback Mountain, and then you get stuck way up top because it got too hot, you weren't plotting, whatever else, and the helicopter has to come rescue you because you can't get down off it, why are the taxpayers paying for that? You should get stuck with the bill.
Well, it's a fine line, though, isn't it? Because I would agree with you that if I get in a car accident and the ambulance has to take me to the hospital, they're going to charge my insurance, right? Because that's a medical thing. But
they're going to try, yeah.
Yeah, but on the other side, when you're up on the mountain, that could be a medical thing too. Should that be covered as a medical claim, or should that be covered under the fire district's budget?
If it's an actual medical claim, like you're hiking and then all of a sudden you have a heart attack, stroke, whatever else, you fall off a rock by accident and you break a leg, then that's one thing. But if you just can't get down because it's too hot, or you put yourself in a position where you can't back out of it the way you came in, and someone has to come rescue you one way or the other, I do believe that you should have to pay for that, because that is a waste of resources.
So let me ask this, because your dad was obviously in public service for a long time. Your mom,
both my parents were, yeah.
Your mom
both
did it for a long time. Those budgets are part of like the general budget that the state has, right? I mean, we pay taxes into that. So do they budget that they're going to have so many of these flights, or how does that work?
I don't know on that level.
Oh, okay.
But when you have something like the Ranger helicopters in the state that's run by the Department of Public Safety, those are there for actual emergencies or missing people's manhunts, whatever else. So I don't want to say like they have a budget for, we'll say 45 wrecks a year they have to attend to make budget to justify the cost of having them there. But yeah, I don't think that there's a way for them to actually budget for that, but I think there's a better use for it.
Yeah, because and when you think of it, there's so many other things. Like, I don't know if you guys see it in Kingman as much, but in Phoenix, we have a terrible problem with wrong way drivers, like people getting on a highway the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And they cause these massive accidents, and people are injured and killed sometimes. And I always wondered, when the police go out to service that, when it's the fault of whoever was driving on the wrong side, does the city or does the county, the state have a recourse to put those costs on to someone?
I think they do. I don't know for sure, but I want to say that I feel like they do to some extent, because I've heard stories of like forest fires, like the Rodeo Chetiskyi fire years and years ago that burned a big portion of the eastern part of the state over by Sholo, that once they found the person who started the fire, they'd have to pay for a lot of the damages.
Oh, wow. Because some of those fires were huge.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the biggest ones.
So that Yarnell fire, if they found the person who started the fire that killed those 19s, could they get him for murder, or her for murder?
I don't know. It's a possibility. I would say at this point, anything's And the world we currently live in, even if it was a no, I wouldn't say it's a hard no until a judge says it's a hard no, just based on the world we live in and how people are out for blood for anything these days.
It kind of even goes in even further. Like, what role should our government entities play when it comes to us? Because, a big topic right now, obviously, is, the government's talking about changing Medicaid, requirements and guidelines. And Medicaid obviously is an attempt by the federal or by our state and local governments to try to help people who are down and out or need help, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of people do not like Medicaid because it's like, hey, I have to work, I have to do my own thing. How come you can't do your own thing? So what role should our government play when it comes to this kind of stuff?
Black and white area in today's world, because that's just the way that our governments or our political systems have evolved. I think that you don't have a lot of moderates anymore, people that can see both sides of the story. I think the way that we're being conditioned in today's world is either you're all for helping out with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, whatnot. You help the college students that want to go to college, or you're completely against it. You're in business for yourself, and if you can't afford to go, then you just can't go.
Oh yeah, because it seems like governments are more open to helping, disabled people or children, elderly.
And I feel like that we're getting away from even wanting to help them anymore from everything I keep reading in the newspapers or in the news.
Yeah, and so we it seems to me that we have an issue that goes to the heart of us as a society. Like, I think about these people, and I'm kind of on the boat of like the people who climb up the mountain and don't bring enough water. So screw you. You want to be an idiot, you want to be a moron, then no, you don't deserve to get free help.
Yeah, there's Darwinism,
But on the other side, I also feel like we pay for firefighters to put out fires. I don't cause the fire of my house, but I definitely like the fact that I pay in the money so that when it does happen, I have the firefighters on my side.
Yeah, because you're paying for fire protection as part of your taxes.
Yeah.
Hiking, stupid hiking taxes aren't factored into what we pay into the kitty.
Well, I don't know. They might be like
taxes aren't factored into that, but fire protection, police protection.
Yeah, but public service, or public the DPS, right? Or whoever the emergency teams are that handle those kind of calls, they're part of some government agency, right?
Yeah, part of the state.
Yeah, so we pay for that. We pay for those services. So I guess the argument from the person on the mountain is, well, hey, I paid for it. I might as well get the benefits of it as well.
And I guess my argument to that is, well, what's the definition of those services, or what are they supposed to be protecting? Because if it's the Department of Public Safety in this case, they're there for your protection. They can't protect you from your own stupidity if you can't get off a mountain.
That's true. I remember when my dad was alive, I found out that he was behind on some public utilities bills.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Dad, I don't understand why you're behind. I've been sending you money. He says, well, I only pay for what I use. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I don't pay for the parks tax that they have. I don't use any parks. I went, oh, Dad, no, you can't do that, man.
Wow.
He goes, no, hey, if I don't use it, I'm not paying it. And I said, yeah, but Dad, they roll it all into one. He goes, no, I don't use the parks. So no, I'm not spending money on the parks. And there was a couple other ones too. Well, they were threatening to turn off his water because it was all part of one city bill, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I understand his logic. I understand, but it doesn't work that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I get that too. I understand completely what he's saying. And I'd be right there with him making that same argument. I'm not using the park, especially if money's limited. Why am I paying for something I don't use if it's something I'm not interested in? But as a whole, when you agree to pay some kind of city tax, water tax, whatever else, they always put things in there to help fund other projects. That's just the way the government works anymore. And it's a necessary evil.
Yeah, yeah,
I see
like
how much my water bill is for what my actual water bill is versus my sanitation portion, and I am blown away. Being that I live by myself, I might ha- roll my trash can out to get picked up probably once every other week, and it comes twice a week. So I'm paying a whole lot more to have my trash taken away than I'm using. And if I reduce that by 2/3, we'll say, I would have my water shut off because that's just not the way they allow it to work.
well, and let's be honest, we live in a state that has a very high geriatric population, and how many times have we had tax initiatives come in front of them for increasing revenue for education, and it gets voted down?
Yeah.
And what's the logic? Well, I don't have any children, so why should I pay for that?
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
that's a big portion of why the marijuana legalization didn't pass, because they didn't write it out properly and people didn't fully understand it. And we'll see if that changes in the election come November.
Maybe that's the hardest part about this whole discussion is, once again, it's our private, the needs of the many. Do they outweigh the needs of ourselves?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that there's a lot of programs that I finance through my taxes that I will never use.
Yeah.
I'll just never use those. I'll never use those. Do I not pay for it? Do you say, hey, I'm going to be selfish, I don't need to pay for that? Or do I say, no, I got to pay for it?
If you really want to find out how much your portion of your taxes are for, we'll say, a state senator that you don't like. I'll go ahead and say McSally. And if I decide I don't want to pay McSally's salary for my taxes, whatever portion that might be, and I preclude that from any taxes I pay, one person, it's probably 2 or 3 cents, all things considered, per person. But if you get enough people to do it, you're going to start getting thrown in jail for tax evasion, because now all of a sudden you're not paying your government entities,
Hey, this is okay. So this is mind blowing. So there was a story out, maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. There was a story out there saying that Warren Buffett pays less in taxes than his secretary does.
I would not be surprised by that.
So if I'm not paying any taxes, why should I be eligible for any benefits from those taxes?
I agree. You look at companies like Amazon, Microsoft, that pay either zero or next to zero taxes. How was that fair?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How does that work? That's right, because they get all these tax incentives to come to a place. So if their building catches on fire,
they basically would have to employ their own fire department.
Yeah, they don't have any taxes going in. But no, I mean, the city of, let's say it moved to Kingman, the city of Kingman's fire department would still try to put the building out, right?
Yeah, because it's still a business, but it's not a business that's generating any sales tax.
Yeah, like it doesn't know, for example, that they're not paying any taxes. They just see a building on fire and say, I need to get that building put out.
Yeah, that raises an interesting question, because our friend Paulo researched the NFL years ago and found out that the NFL is actually a nonprofit organization as well.
Really?
You were there at that conversation.
I don't remember it, though. I must.
Yeah, he was researching something and found out that where it said the NFL is a nonprofit, and they don't pay any taxes or anything, which I wouldn't be surprised, because if you think about it, every team is individually owned. So those teams would either be businesses or also have to find somebody to become nonprofits, which I don't see that's possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mind blowing, dude.
Yeah.
This is
theoretically in that case. Yeah, theoretically in that case, the NFL could just be a proxy that these teams make donations to, that oversees the playing of the games, but doesn't have anything else in the promotion of the game. So it doesn't have anything else to do with the running of the teams, which completely contradict everything you see on TV. But going into conspiracy theories, that should be surprising.
Well, and when we're talking about what our government's role should be, it kind of gets into that question: what should we expect as a citizenry from the government? And I guess a lot of people still think that, hey, whether you're stupid or not doesn't matter. If you get stuck on the mountain, public service should come and help you.
And I think that's a big piece of where we're at as a society today is we all have different ideas of how involved the government should be with our day-to-day lives. It's some want the government to make sure college is free, or that everybody has health care, or uh, others believe that they should have nothing to do with our jobs, nothing to do with our guns. It's such a different dichotomy of what people believe our government should be these days.
Well, I always found it interesting when people would talk bad about cops until they need a cop. And
Yeah.
then, oh, hey, I need your help now. I need your help now. Well, you were just talking shit about me, all year last year, and now you want my help.
Yeah. And what I find ironic in these conversations is, I live in a smaller community that isn't very wealthy. It's not a very rich town. And a lot of people are very conservative, and I would call Republicans here. And they want the whole Republican platform. Well, they take the Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all the benefits that they don't realize would be taken away had they actually gotten the political platform they believe they stand for. So it's an ignorant, hypocritical stance. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and I've always felt it's so interesting that the mindset of we want to help businesses be richer. We want to help businesses be, more profitable. We want to grow business. Yet, other than their employees, many of them don't do anything contributory to society. Other like help out with other things, or help the raise education. It seems to me that if you want to help businesses, those businesses should also have to contribute taxes to help our society. And when you hear about a big company like Amazon who doesn't pay any taxes, then what value are you bringing to our community as a whole? Everything you bring is consumerism to you. It's not you're not giving back to those communities, and they say, well, they're giving jobs.
Yeah, and I think that's the counter argument. Well, they're giving jobs that gives them money that gets put back into taxes for the community and whatever else. They're just not paying on their level.
Yeah, they're not paying the taxes, but they're passing the taxes to the employees that get money to.
Yeah, on a much smaller level too, and that bodes the next question. You look at a company like Amazon, who has distribution centers all throughout the country, but they're stationed up in Seattle. Do they pay Washington state taxes only, or do they have to pay taxes in each state that they're in? Like, do they have to pay state taxes in Phoenix or in Arizona because they have a distribution warehouse there, or do they just file one tax form at the end of the day, and that is what it is?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I think they probably do. Wherever their headquarters is, that's probably. Oh, and I see you're saying if the taxes are different in that state than other states where they're doing business, like New York or some of these other states where they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean and these are all things that are above my head because I'm not an accountant and I don't pretend to even try to know the rules or the laws. It's just general observation and food for thought, and I think that's the biggest thing we can impress onto our listeners that. We aren't accountants. We don't know. We're just speculating. Two guys having a beer in a bar, just thinking about taxes and how our public money is used.
It's a fine line, isn't it? Because, part of me doesn't like paying a bunch of taxes because it's kind of like health insurance. If I never use the health insurance, all I feel like is I'm paying money into something that I've never used.
Yeah.
Until I use it. Well, and then it's like, I'm so glad that I pay taxes to, have better roads or have, better building structures, I mean.
And Kingman's a perfect example of that, where we don't have a property tax. It was the city manager way back in the early 80s thought the community was doing so well that they could get rid of the property tax. And so they did. So our city's only source of revenue is sales tax, unlike every other community that has a property tax. And it's gone to the vote quite a few times to try to bring property tax back, and it's getting shot down left and right because everyone's gotten along with, I haven't had to pay property taxes in forever and we're doing just fine. I don't care how you make the government run, but you're not getting property taxes back.
Jeez. Yeah, and the only way you feel the pain is when they start shutting down services or
Exactly.
raising other prices.
But that goes back to, I don't use those services anyway, so I don't care.
Yeah. Well, and let's be honest. I mean, how many people in some of these states where, like Texas, where the property taxes are a huge amount?
Yeah.
A huge amount of your bill. That money goes to fund projects that are in Texas, but ours are relatively low compared to theirs. And they're like, hey, how come I got to pay so much in my state and you don't pay anything in your state?
That's true.
I guess we
don't know how
get it some other way, maybe.
Yeah, every state's different with it, and I'm sure they're all goofy laws one way or the other, depending how you look at it. But we could probably talk ourselves in circles about this all night long. But
I think the biggest thing is that it looked like the majority of people on the little survey that they did felt like, yes, the government or the public services should not, or they should pay for rescuing someone off the mountain.
And I would disagree with that. I think if you're dumb enough to get stuck on a mountain, you're on your own. Yeah. But that's just me.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of an asshole like that. But on a happier note,
I kind of feel like those are one of those things too, where bring water, do it smart. Don't. It's 105 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, you probably need to be smart. Why are you not smart?
They
should have a tax on being stupid.
They should.
But then again, there'd be so much money then because most people. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's also very true.
Wow, except our listeners. Except our listeners, because our listeners are smart.
Well, I mean, for the most part, ish.
Yeah,
ish. But I'm done talking about that. As we wrap up the show, I do want to have let everyone know that a very fun story I got over the weekend. I just let Jason know before he started the show tonight. Our buddy Bruce from Old Sac up in NorCal. That's Old Sacramento in Northern California, for those that don't know the lingo. Texted me over the weekend and said his whole construction company listens to the show because his boss used our show that Bruce is on for material to roast him at a company on the last Friday night. So we want to say thank you to Bruce's company for listening. Thank you for Bruce to be on the show, to give him that ammunition. And we invite him on the show more. Because there are other stories I can tell that I'm sure his company would love to hear about our younger days up on the mountain where his family lived.
Oh, I think we need to get Bruce on the show sooner rather than later.
I think we should too, and I will talk to him about that because I think that would be a fun show.
Now, does the executive producer know Bruce?
Oh yeah, Tom knows Bruce very well.
We might have to have a staff.
Bruce was for those that don't know, Bruce was my college roommate way back when. So Tom would come down from Flagstaff and came in to stay with us on the weekends in Phoenix. So we had a lot of shenanigans together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was just a fun story. It's good to hear that our podcast is being put to good use to embarrass people publicly, which was always the intention of when we started this thing 3 years ago.
I just want to make one point too. I mean, I have an opportunity to see some of the data analytics, and it's amazing where our reach is. I mean, it is worldwide. We have listeners all over the world. I mean, when you look at our map, Scott, there are so many colors in countries you never, ever would have guessed we would have been listened to. We just recently had Egypt added to our list of countries that are now part of us. So just to all the listeners out there, we really do appreciate the reach and that you enjoy us once a week to sit and kind of BS and talk like old friends do and be part of that friendship. So thank you.
Absolutely. And, we do want to thank everybody for checking out our social media, because I see the analytics on our Instagram page, and it's always fun to see how many people are visiting our page and making comments and liking our stuff just based on the hashtag. So if you have a joke that you think we would love to see or love to hear, or a funny meme, just go ahead and hashtag Liquid Kernedge, because that's a hashtag we use to get it over there, to get our memes out there with everything else going on in the world. So stuff out today. We're recording on a Tuesday. Our hashtags are hashtag Liquid Kernedge, hashtag podcast, hashtag Tuesday. So you can find us if you use any hashtag of the day of the week. We do appreciate everybody listening. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Liquid Kernedge. And you can find our EP, Tom, and his very funny swear truck memes on Twitter and Instagram, all at liquid_EP.
Always the best, man. Hey, everyone, have a great week. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Kernedge.